Welcome back, guys, to the Beyond Condition podcast, the voice of bodybuilding. I am your host, Sarah Parker, and today I'm bringing you an episode that essentially I feel like I've had a bit of a calling to record. And if you listen to the podcast, if you know me, you'll understand that sometimes I get this overwhelming, almost feeling of this needs to go out as a podcast. And I feel like today is the day. And of course, it's Monday. We've gone live this morning with Lewis, and today you get a bonus episode. And there's quite a few things that have contributed to this episode being created. And I was actually walking back from the gym today, not long ago, and I was listening to my music. And I, when I was going through some really hard times in my life, I used to listen to Bicep. So shout out to anyone that resonates there, because we often have, songs or artists that have got us through some really hard times. And I'm listening and I was like, this this resonates with me right now to the pain I feel in the bodybuilding industry. And as with the title, are you good enough? And I feel like for sure, guys, right now, I can sense it, I can feel it, that a lot of you are going to be feeling, is it ever going to happen? Am I ever going to attain the success that I'm after? And that's going to be absolutely unique to you. What are you striving for? Whatever that may be, at times we're led to question ourselves in this sport. We absolutely are. It is brutal beyond words. There is so much to it. And of course, I cover this across episodes. But even the aspect of the external pressure that we can face around competing, around being able to attain whatever success looks like for you, it can be so debilitating at times. Like, honestly, we're in this world right now in 2025 where everyone is on social media. You're constantly seeing streams of people winning shows, people not doing so well at shows in their mind, and what they put in a post about that. You're constantly seeing more and more competitive physiques. Is there the likelihood of comparison? Absolutely, there is. Hence why we can feel like we're never going to be good enough. And I can say till I'm blue in the face, you are a genetic individual. We all have different backgrounds, and that's going to contribute for sure to your own physique. But it is true. It really, really is. And when we think about how hard it is to step on stage and be judged by a judging panel, and that be our fate that we've done a whole prep for, that's brutal. It really, really is. And at times, nothing I can say, those around you can say, will make that any better. I've been there so many times where I've been in complete darkness, where I've shut myself in a room, turned all the lights off, and sobbed my fucking heart out because I haven't even had a look in at a show. I've done a whole prep, months and months and months of trying to upskill, of trying to do better. And as I say, the judges haven't even looked at me. Now, for sure, that was in the early days, but it still sits with me, right? Like, I remember it so vividly when I'd just be like, will everyone just leave me the fuck alone? Because right now, I am not good enough. I am not worthy. And at times, guys, I'm going to play it straight, and it hits me hard. It really, really does. Because there could be people listening to this that feel this way. There's been times where bodybuilding is literally all I have. Literally all I have. And and this is, if you've been there, you'll understand. I've wanted to literally not be on this world, on this earth anymore, be in this world anymore. I've wanted the pain to go because I kept thinking, I'm doing everything to the letter here. I'm absolutely pouring my whole life into bodybuilding, and I'm still not good enough. I'm still not good enough in the judge's eyes. And that's really, guys, as you know, I say, that's all that matters on the day. The placings are given, and that's that. But you then have to go home and lead the rest of your life. The next day you wake up, you've got to show up, you've got to do what you need to do, whether that's work, being a parent, being a partner. All of those things don't stop. The world doesn't stop. And life is so hard at times, guys. It really, really is. There's moments where you question, is the bodybuilding endeavor worth all of this time, all of this investment? And when we correlate that with a placing, well, if you don't get the placing you thought you would, or you hoped you would, what does that mean? Does it mean that we're not worthy? Does it mean that it's time for us to throw the towel in because we haven't reaped the rewards, as it were, from an accolade standpoint? You can quite quickly forget what you've poured into prep off season, the obstacles you've overcome. And that's the thing, guys, when you think about everything that you go through, if you've faced challenges throughout your preparation, maybe even in the off season, the judges don't see that, but you feel it, you know it. It's such a individual journey. And that's the thing with being judged on stage on your physique. You never know who's going to turn up. You're hoping that your body is where it needs to be. And we know that sometimes if you're facing challenges that physiologically perhaps your body doesn't respond in the way that it could if those challenges were removed. So does that then question if you should step on stage, if you are good enough? Do people around you question what you do? And if you don't get a place in, is that then deemed as, is it really worth it? Is it worth it? And what I'm going to say is, guys, and again, I can say this, and right now it might not be a time where this is received by you and it feels like it does offer that hope. Nobody can take bodybuilding away from you, even when you are facing the monumental challenges that life presents. Even when you can't do some of the bodybuilding tasks, it doesn't mean you're not a bodybuilder in your heart. And I'm going to give you an example for anyone that might resonate here. Now, as you know, I started the podcast nearly 4 years ago. And since then, I have poured everything into it. Do I get moments of imposter syndrome? Of course I do. Of course I do. And even when in August I had the notification that there was 75,000 downloads in August, I still was like, how can I be better? How can I reach more of you? What can I do? This is an achievement, but I need to be better. So when I started the podcast, if you told me that notification would come through within 4 years of hosting the podcast, I wouldn't believe you. I feel it now. I feel everything that went into launching the podcast. But then I get there and I'm thinking, what can I do to be better and do more? And that's very much like the bodybuilding journey in itself. Now, an extension of this, guys, is I'm the podcast host, the voice of bodybuilding. Now, let me give you a very, very good example of how I could feel imposter syndrome. Now, I don't have an IFBB Pro card. A lot of the guests that I have on do, and it's often referenced as where you want your bodybuilding journey to go. You want to become an IFBB Pro. And for me, I don't know if my physique will be worthy for an IFBB Pro card. I don't know. I'm 36. Of course, that takes me into the Masters category. And I'm, brushing shoulders with, inviting guests on that are at the top of their game. They're in the Pro League. Now, I have 3 Pro cards, but they're not the IFBB Pro card. And if I was to give up on my dream of being a podcast host, of being a coach, of being a bodybuilder in itself, because I haven't attained the IFBB Pro card yet, I wouldn't be sitting here recording this podcast for you. I would remove so much of my own purpose because I haven't had the validation of reaching IFBB Pro level. But does that stop me? No, it doesn't. Because my day in, day out pursuit, I haven't been to stage for 3 years now, guys. Again, could that stop me being the voice of bodybuilding? Yes, it could. But as you know, I will not go back to stage unless I've made the improvements I need to. And that got halted by having major surgery. That is out of my control, but that does not take away my identity of being a bodybuilder. And I'm going to say it, it's just sprung to my mind. And this is a moment of self awareness with minimal arrogance. I'm a good fucking bodybuilder. Now, if you're walking along listening to this, if you're on that Stairmaster, if you're training, if you're at home doing your food prep, this is a time for you to do exactly what I did. You are a good fucking bodybuilder. Can you be better? Can I be better? Absolutely, we can. But what is that for? Is that for our own validity of the pursuit? Is that for our passion to be bodybuilders, to be part of such a small percentage of people that do this? Let's face it, guys, and I don't care what anyone says. You stepping on that stage, half fucking naked, exposing your physique to an audience, a panel of judges, and going, I'm here, and this is the best I have got right now. You tell me, outside of your bodybuilding friends, your coach, you tell me how many people you walk past on the street that would do anything like that. Because I bet you it's a very, very high possibility that you're not walking the streets and going in the supermarket and seeing a fuck ton of competitive bodybuilders because it's just not a thing. However, we surround ourselves at the gym, podcasts, Instagram, we're thinking that everyone's a bodybuilder, but it's absolutely not the case. And I know right now there's seasons coming to an end for you guys, and I feel in the industry the pain. I really, really do, because I know there's many of you that are feeling confusion around your placing, are feeling a lack of self-worth because you were hoping to attain an accolade and you didn't. And the thing is here, guys, is that when our whole purpose is built on receiving an accolade, like with many things in life, let me tell you, that is gonna feel like a fucking ton of bricks on you. The weight that falls on you when your season ends, it's heavy, it's laborsome. Then we combine that with the physiological adaptations that have occurred in your prep to get lean, the hormones, everything that's occurred. How do we control that as we move through a reverse out if we feel a lack of purpose, a lack of identity, a lack of self-belief and self-worth? Perhaps, guys, you don't have many people around you that you can reach out to and lean on. Maybe you're like me in that dark room with the doors closed, sobbing your fucking heart out because you've done everything. Why can't the judges see that? Maybe your coach, it doesn't feel like they see it. Maybe you feel like nobody understands you. Because let me tell you, I've had that for the majority of my time as a bodybuilder. And what I'm going to say is that this is a huge reason why I continue to post physique shots. I continue to share what I'm doing through self-coaching. Because I'm not going to stage anytime soon. So I could easily just go, oh, well, no one fucking cares. You know, sometimes I'll post a physique shot that I feel really happy about. I'll write a whole post and I might get 25 likes. Oh, okay. What was the point in that? I was really hyped to share that with everyone. And if you're in a similar boat where you share physique shots, where you share things on Instagram, something I once heard, and I really, really loved this sentiment. For me, the example there, 25 likes. So that's a whole classroom of people, right? So you remember at school when you're sitting there with your peers and the teachers doing their thing, 25 of you in that classroom. That's quite a lot of people. But again, we're led to believe that so many people get hundreds of likes, thousands of likes, they've got loads of followers. Well, that means people must care about them. They must care more about them than you. And this is where we can be so pressured by the external world. But this is a point, guys, where when you're ready, it's important to understand this journey, this journey, when we receive the clarity in our own mind that we are showing up and doing our best, and that actually this is for us, it's so important because when you get to those points where you're questioning your journey and if this is the right decision for you, maybe it is time to reroute for a space of time while you gather your thoughts. Maybe competitive bodybuilding right now is so much of a burden, is so much of a pressure that it is time to step back for a portion of time, that it is time to concentrate on other things in life. And this is the beauty of bodybuilding. You don't have to step on stage to be worthy and for it to be your purpose and passion. And I get it all the time, guys. I get it where it's bodybuilding's really boring. Like, like surely you're not bored of it by now? You know, 13 plus years in, you're just eating the same food, you're training. I'm absolutely fucking not bored of it. I don't understand how you can get bored of it because there is always a phase we can head into. There is always ways we can be better. So how could I get bored? And it's funny because even in my personal life, and I didn't realize I was going to speak about this, but Matt, actually, my other half, he's not really doing the bodybuilding anymore. And we've certainly, you know, divided ways in regards to we would, when we first got together, we'd train together, we'd do the food prep together, all of these things. And he's pursuing other things right now. And at first I was like, well, you've changed the dynamic. You know, that was a commonality we had as a partnership. And it was like, okay, this is a bit, you know, it's going to take a bit of adapting. And what that's helped me realize is, and you might have similar scenarios that occur if you're changing the dynamic in your relationship, is that it still stands true what I said when we met. I am bodybuilding through and through. And what I realize is, you know, I train on my own anyway, but I don't need someone else to do it in the house. I don't need someone else to facilitate me doing it because it's for me. And he's even said at times, you know, I don't understand how you keep going and doing it. I've had multiple people say that around me, and I'm like, I don't need to even say anything back to that. I just love bodybuilding, you know, and there's often a bit of jest and what have you. And at first, I used to feel it was a bit like, are you undermining me here? You know, when people would say certain things, and now I own it and I go into conversations. And, you know, if someone asks me a question about something, politics, football, any of those things, I'm like, I only know about bodybuilding, I'm afraid. And then I sort of have a laugh and I'm like, you know, well, I do know about mindset and various other things. But I'm bodybuilding through and through. And this is the thing, you know, when we look at the external side of things, I actually had a conversation with someone in the gym who was like, "Oh, you know, you do bodybuilding." And I was like, "Yeah, I've been competing for, you know, 13 years or so." And he was like, "Well, it's not in your profile." And I was like, "What do you mean?" well, that you've won Miss Universe. It's not in your Instagram profile. And I was like, okay, does that mean what does that mean? And it gave me a moment to think, guys, that we're in this echo chamber of like you have to put that you've won a show, you have to put that you've got a pro card, you have to tell the world because that offers validity. But let me tell you, so many people do it and people forget a conversation within a moment. I don't because of my memory, of course. But really, people move on. And this is the thing with shows and placings. It's like you can win a show and everyone's around you, and 2 weeks later, everyone's gone. I've mentioned it on the pod before where I've spoken with people during their prep, podcast listeners, or people that have reached out, and I've been there showing up as the podcast host, as the person I am. And I love it. I'm here for it. I love hearing about your journeys. And that person gets a pro card and I don't hear from them again. Or that person wins a show and they don't even bother, speaking with me, and they're like, but you're the only person that's been there in the prep for me. And then they don't really speak to me much after. That's okay. You know, fame is fame. If you feel that that's your path and now, someone's not going to speak to me as much, cool. I've played a part in that someone's journey, and that is okay. And you might find this. And the reason I mention that is because perhaps you've met people that you're going to compete alongside. Maybe you're going to be at shows with people. Maybe someone is deemed as more successful than you because they've received an accolade and you haven't. Perhaps you guys don't speak as much. Perhaps you make friends in prep and they disappear. Could that add to you not feeling as worthy? Absolutely, it could. You think, what have I done wrong? Why has this person disappeared? You might have even won a show, made friends in the prep or on show day, and they don't speak to you again. Does that mean that you've done something wrong? Not necessarily, no. If you have, you have. But if you've been the person you've been throughout the whole time and they've rerouted and their path goes in a different direction, again, that's okay. And we're very easy to formulate opinions and, fill our subconscious with facts of, why we're not good enough, why we need to be so detrimental to ourselves. We're all our own worst critic, particularly in a sport like bodybuilding. It's based on your physique, right? We absolutely can go into these rabbit holes of feeling that why why are these things happening to me? As I say, I've done everything. I've poured my whole life into this. Am I ever going to be good enough? But what does success look like to you guys? What does it look like? Because I feel like at times we're going to need to ground ourselves and understand what success looks like for you as an individual. So is that, and it should be in my mind, next time you go to stage that you've improved not just your physique, but your stage presence, your posing, how you handle the prep, how you show up on the day. Perhaps you have more self-belief and self-worth. Perhaps you've worked on your own mindset to bring more of a competitor to the stage rather than feeling this lack of self-belief. Perhaps you believe in yourself more. And I'm going to give a shout out to someone that I've connected with recently. Sylvia will be listening to this podcast. And I actually judged her at the UKUP show that I did last weekend as a judge. And, I mentioned this on my previous podcast. And we've had some talks. And what I've realized is because I had a bit of a how have I impacted this person so much? She is a phenomenal person, a phenomenal athlete, fucking shredded, stage presence that is memorable, posing bang on. And she said, you've changed my life in essence, over the messages we've sent. And you know why? And this is a really nice thing to talk about. Because when she was on stage, I looked her in the eye as a judge and I smiled. And she gave me a little wink. And I remember as I've mentioned today, what it feels like to not be looked at by a judge, to not even, it's like you're not even on the stage and you're like desperate. I'm talking from personal experience. You're desperate to be even looked at. I've been judged multiple times where there's judges on their phone, not even looking at the stage. This does happen. Hence why I will make eye contact with as many competitors as I can when I judge. I will give feedback. I will stay behind. I will speak with you guys after the show, etc., etc. Sylvia actually came up to me after the show and she won the overall. And she said to me, "You gave me the confidence to shine on that stage." I mean, you know me, guys, I could fucking pass out with my heart bursting to hear this news from someone that, on the face of it, and this is what's a beautiful message here, as I say, incredible athlete. So you could look on that stage, guys, and this is something I want to express in this episode. You could look on that stage and go, shit, that woman, she's undeniable, unbeatable. She must be so confident. She knows she's going to win the overall. But there's still elements within all of us that even if we are up there doing our thing, we look undeniable. We all have moments where we could do with someone smiling at us, giving us a moment of almost validation that we're seen. Someone that can add substance to our life. And that's important because even when you see the pros and everyone on that stage looking like everything's in line, the ducks are in line. Let me tell you, I know plenty of bodybuilders, some of which come on the podcast to share their story, that they are going through so much pain in their personal life or on their bodybuilding journey. They are questioning themselves every day. They are questioning their purpose as a competitor. But on the face of it, you might think these people have got everything. They feel like they've got nothing. And you might be there right now, guys. Maybe you won the show. Maybe you got the pro card, but you still have stuff going on that is still questioning your pursuit, questioning who you are. Because you get the pro card and then you progress to the pro league. Okay, so now I've got an additional pressure because I'm now a pro. And sometimes, guys, what I'm going to say to you is that that pressure could feel more pressure for them than the pressure we face right now. Because suddenly they have to progress. They have to carry that burden that they are now the new IFBB Pro. Okay, so there's no off switch then. And that's for all of us, all of us. The and I'll call it, and this is not negative, the burden of competitive bodybuilding is far too heavy for many people. The people you don't hear of that do one season and disappear from the competitive bodybuilding world. The people that get injured and they do not come back. The people that are dealing with things in their personal life and they do not compete anymore. The people that have rerouted. Some people will attain the pro card and then they don't compete ever again. But you're there still showing up to do better and be better because you're carrying the burden and the weight of that. The constant, and this is what we could label as the suffering. The suffering has to be worth the cause. And what is the cause? If I ask you right now, what is your why? And I do believe for most of us, a solid why is to continue exploring physique development. And that's my why from the word go. Because I haven't competed for 3 years, does that stop me doing an off season, doing a diet, doing a mini cut? And some of you guys reached out about my 19-week diet earlier in the year and said, like, you didn't go to stage. And trust me, I had so many people, guys, coming to me saying, you're just doing this to assess if your physique has improved enough since the surgery. And I'm like, yeah. What do you mean? You're half killing yourself like a prep. Absolutely, I am. In this current mini cut, this is being treated like a prep. There's no fucking around. But that also applies to the off season, right? Absolutely, we can do more social things, we get more food, there's not as much of the cardio perhaps, etc., etc. Does that stop me doing what I need to do as a bodybuilder and taking this with seriousness? And it for me it's very serious, guys. If you told me tomorrow you're gonna die, tomorrow your life is being taken, are you happy that you've done what you've done this last week? I'd say yes. I'd say I've hit my step target. I've been to the gym. I've done my supplements. I've had a bedtime routine. And I genuinely think a lot of people would be like, what? Like, wouldn't you go on holiday? Wouldn't you jump out a plane? Wouldn't you XYZ? Personally, for me, no. When I say bodybuilding is my everything, it absolutely is. I couldn't give two shits about what everyone else thinks about that. I've had confrontation with multiple people in my life. I don't give a shit because this is mine. And if you're listening, this is yours. Bodybuilding is yours. Bodybuilding is the art of creating your masterpiece. Nobody has the power to take that away from you unless you decide it is not the right path for you. This is yours. And if you're listening, this is yours. It truly is. Because whether you're starting out, whether you're years in like me, we have so much to come. I mentioned, right, I'm 36. Well, I could just be like, well, I'm 36 now, let the younger people through the sport, maybe I'm not worthy, maybe I'm never going to be good enough to get the IFBB Pro card. Fuck that. Nobody's taking my bodybuilding away from me because I've had it taken from me with surgery, with multiple things that have happened over my journey. But that doesn't mean that I stop doing the things that I can as a bodybuilder. I get clever, I adapt because it's my whole heart. And if you feel this way, if you're listening and it's like, that's me, you have your answer. A placing does not take this from you. This is where we have that opportunity where competitive bodybuilding, let's face it, could make or break you. It absolutely could. For sure it could. But when we feel broken, it's still there if we want it. Or maybe we step back from the competitive side, as I've mentioned, and we bodybuild as a lifestyle. We can go back to it whenever we want. I've been seeing people step on stage at, I think the oldest is like 92 guys. That means I've got 45 or so years, 45 years. But it's true, guys. Like, I can't express enough how beautiful this gift is that we've been given by finding bodybuilding. Wow, we literally have things each and every day to do. Now, with what I've mentioned, that burden to be a bodybuilder, does that mean we can't have days where we're like, do you know what? Today, I'm not going to do as much emphasis on the bodybuilding, maybe like post show, right? Maybe you take a step back for a week, 2 weeks, however long you need to do. Maybe something in your personal life has happened and you need to prioritize that. Again, guys, doesn't mean you're not a bodybuilder. It doesn't. It's only if you start to smack talk yourself and tell yourself, but everyone else is doing everything. Well, that person's had surgery and they're doing it, and this, da, 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 da. Fuck that. This is your journey. You have the power within you to be able to steer this ship. You absolutely do. And this is important. It really, really is. Because there's so much of this, all of this going around at the moment. There's different coaches in the limelight. There's magpie syndrome where it's like, oh, I want that coach. Do I stay with my coach? There's, I haven't got the placing I was after. There's politics. There's so many reasons to quit, but it's on us not to quit if this is the right move for us. And someone else I want to shout out today before I wrap up is Lydia. So I actually met her at the UK UP show also. And And the reason I'm going to mention her is because straight away, if you've met me and we catch the vibe. The vibe was there. She said, I listened to your podcast. You've got me through a lot of these points in prep that we all reach. And I was like, whoa, okay, thank you. Like, how I do, if you've met me, it's like, whoa, this is really, really nice to hear. And one of the first things she said to me was, I really like how you've said about enhancing recovery more and how your mindset always looks to do more, but sometimes you need to put it back a bit. Now, the reason I mention that as the start of our conversation is because that tells me that some of you guys listening, hopefully the majority of you, will pick up things like that that can challenge your narrative. This flies all the way back round to what did I say? Am I good enough to be your podcast host? Am I worthy? Should I be showing up and pouring so much into the podcast? Am I the right person? Now, that example thrown into meeting Lydia, well, I potentially have had an impact on her journey to maybe realize more so around the recovery side of things that she could maybe have that impact on her physique. Maybe, she can handle things more, appropriately, as it were, when it comes to wanting to do more. Because we actually spoke more, and she's definitely like me, Lydia. If you're listening, we absolutely love getting shredded, killing ourselves in a prep. But we have to learn at times, and what I loved about talking with her is the, I guess the resonation is probably the best word for the people that listen. If you're listening right now and you are like me, if you're listening and you're like, that's me, that's me, that's me, how we just keep going. We just keep going. Why wouldn't we? Lydia's the same as us guys. And what a blessing to meet her, and what a phenomenal human again, as is Sylvia. And these opportunities help me realize the impact I'm having, but also help me realize that my message, we're all still students. We're students of bodybuilding. We're students of life. And the pain that life brings, the toughness that we have to find, the hope that's sometimes not there when we are surrounded by darkness. If you guys are anything like me, we find light, we find hope, but it's not always just there. And what we can learn from bodybuilding is we can always find a reason to show up. We can always find a reason to do the things as bodybuilders. And my sentiment here is every time you commit to part of your bodybuilding tasks each and every day, you're showing up for yourself. You are pouring back into yourself. There's people in the world that do not do that, but there's also people in the world that do not get to do that. We are absolutely in a privileged position, and at times it won't feel like that. At times it won't feel like that because you're so on your ass with this crippling self-doubt and the things I've mentioned. But you have the opportunity to rise. You absolutely do. And I leave it on this sentiment. Sylvia said to me, I'm rising like the phoenix. And right now, guys, that is in your hands, and that's a gift that we all have.